People say with every language you're able to speak, you develop the ability to live a new life. Personally, I've always had an affinity to learning new languages. I've been fortunate enough to travel to many different countries, and my background being really diverse, really by God's choice, I've been able to become a native speaker of a couple of different languages really different from each other. Cuando sea mayor quería trabajar como una doctor porque ese trabajo tiene muy beneficios. Tal vez conoces mi español no es bueno. Vi los dibujos animados hace 3 años, pero como el tiempo ha pasado, olvidé muchísimo. Qué latísima. أسكن هنا في لندن ولكن ولدت في هولندا وأصلي مش مصري ولا سعودي ولكن قال لي أبي قل أني يمني. Somalne wakala waxiris menka lagbari mamata waxiris inso barte jirti miris hay inso halalta jirti iyo babate so waxiris so gbarate and yeah man. But now that I'm finally on the doorstep of medical school, I think it's about time that I conquer a new language. But before I do that, I want to show you guys how I've done it, especialmente español. Just some overview. When I was young, we was doing French and Spanish in school. French I did not take seriously. Spanish I slowly started. Free tuition I didn't really take use of it because the teachers are simply there for your own benefit, and that's what I didn't really understand. I didn't go to school so I can learn a separate language. I went there to go get the grades necessary for medical school. So I just wish I'd taken Spanish a little bit more seriously. So right now I'm probably sitting between 40 to 60% fluency of how I was a couple of years ago. Hence the phrase hace 3 años. So my plan is to set myself a goal where I'm gonna get tested. I'm not gonna be flying out to another country. That's not in my budget. But if we can smash 50 likes for this video, hopefully I'll be doing more types of this because these sort of videos take a little bit longer. But before we get into the video, hopefully I will be dropping the course at like December time, something like that, and that's how I make money alongside medical school. How I work and I get online money via the online marketing that I do. I'm not sure if I should release this still because it's my personal finances. If you're interested, let me know, DM me, my description link thingy's at the bottom, so check it out. Let's get straight into the video. Let's go. I wanted to use the first couple of days as a reintroduction to Spanish, so I spent my time very lightly. I knew that the best way to improve was to immerse yourself within the language, and after a few recommendations of Duolingo, I downloaded it from the App Store. I was working that week, with one commute over 2 hours long. As a consequence, I had a lot of free time, and the prioritization of vocabulary learning was an absolute must. Initially getting back into things, I wasn't surprised at how much I had forgotten. Duolingo brought me back to some of the basic conversations I had once forgotten. At the same time, I had memorized words from the OCR GCSE booklet, which proved to be effective. At times, I would write words I didn't know onto my notepad or onto my iPad. I had got through 19 pages of Spanish within a couple of days. So guys are thinking, what way should I actually test myself that allows me to show that I've developed in my Spanish and not just basic conversations that you have at a Spanish hotel? Should I invite someone over? Should I go to Spain? Should I just speak directly towards the camera? What should I do? But then it came to me, obviously I have a following on Instagram, so I'm gonna DM them, put a questionnaire and ask if one Spanish person is willing to sort of like test my Spanish. And it's gonna be very, very awkward. Obviously I don't know, if I get catfished and killed, then I get catfished and killed. So at this stage, it was time to get into proper study mode. I had wanted to utilize the skills I had learnt in creating the UCAT course this summer. I used active recall as well as being able to sit down and memorize for long periods of time, presumably hours. So basically today guys, I've been spending more time on Spanish. It's probably one of the first days that I've given it the amount of time. I was awake like 2 something in the morning, still trying to memorize words, and I'm probably going to get back to it today. I've essentially just been going through the OCR guide, and I'll explain the topic of cavemanning a language, whereby you learn words and you essentially form sentences like I to go to the shops. It sounds a little bit basic, but that's the way to learn the language. But there is no clear strategy for me right now, apart from just memorizing the book, and I hope that makes sense. Here's the thing, I don't usually have high levels of enthusiasm without accountability. Things have to be clearly identifiable problems for me to reach my own goals. However, it wasn't, and sometimes you don't know how to start or where to start, so therefore it tends to never happen, and it's one of the major causes of procrastination, where you feel like you have a mountain to climb. Hence why this sprint methodology works. Essentially, it's just getting started and fits the prophetic tradition أدومها وإن قل, in which will allow you to regularly evaluate progress on the reach of checkpoints. Yeah, so basically guys, I honestly do recommend Duolingo. 1, because it's free, but 2, you can also do like spatial repetition, whereby you can repeat subjects or subsets again and again and again without essentially being charged. You are given like a set number of lives, but I don't think that's a big problem. That shouldn't be a problem at all. Yeah, I honestly think it's one of the best applications out there. I'm not getting plugged, I'm not getting sponsored, just in case someone's saying. But there are other applications such as Anki, which are primarily based on the computer. You can use it on your phone, but you have to pay like £29, and it might be a lot for some people, which may put them off. However, if you are willing to pay that much, it does allow you to do spatial repetition as well as active recall, which are 2 components that are vital to anything that you need to memorize, whether that be in medical school or elsewhere. I'm gonna carry on. I'm gonna see how much I can memorize, and right now I'm on like 19th page out of the 42, and hopefully I'll be trying to memorize all of it before I meet up with my friend. Now, one thing I want to say is that when it comes to learning grammar, it's very, very difficult, don't get me wrong, but exposure to like Spanish anime and of its likes is really, really beneficial in the long term. If you want to learn and have that native touch in any language, you need to know how the natives speak, and not necessarily like Siri, but the Spanish version. So I kept on using the booklet along with watching the best anime out there, Attack on Titanes, both of which allowed me to develop my Spanish. But at times I had become increasingly frustrated when I realized that I'd lost a lot of the Spanish I had once learnt. Many a times the use of reflexive verbs and some of the grammar would perplex me. Even when I thought about it after a period of time, I just couldn't keep up. I realized at this stage I was neglecting key components of language learning. So one really integral part of learning a language is vocabulary. Just like a baby, they don't know grammar, they don't know essentially how to formulate sentences. They pick up words, that's why they shout out mummy, daddy, auntie, Cringeestar if they are taught. And there's 2 areas of the brain that are responsible, the receptive part and the expressive part of the brain. Now, the way the brain works is a little bit confusing for some people, but don't worry, I'll be making a video on spaced repetition and a few other stuff, so don't panic. Now, when anyone's learning a new language, they always find it difficult to express their language. For example, they listen to a lot of anime in a certain language, for example Spanish, but they're unable to enunciate the words or formulate the sentences. So the first component of language is the receptive language. Now, this is controlled by the Wernicke'S area. This is located near the ear and is reinforced by sound. So this is important for language comprehension. Now, the second area of the brain is the Broca's area, the expressive language component, and this is important for producing or essentially building speech. Now, these 2 areas of the brain are connected, so the expressive area as well as the receptive area are connected by a cable, but not really a cable. It's called the ARCUATE FASCICULUS. So for example, when someone speaks to you in Spanish, it enters your ear, goes into the Wernicke'S area, essentially across the ARCUATE FASCICULUS into the Broca's area, the expressive language section, and you're able to articulate the words that you want to say. It travels through your mouth, and essentially that loop is essentially like repeated when they respond to you. And so by essentially trying to speak, you are reinforcing the pathway and hence strengthening the pathway. So you're probably thinking, why have I mentioned these scientific names? Am I trying to flex my scientific knowledge on you? I'm not. The reason why I'm mentioning is that you cannot become proficient in a language until you reinforce this pathway and you try to speak. By doing so, you'll be helping yourself out in the long term and reducing that period of time that it takes you to become 60 to 80% proficient in a language where you can host a normal conversation between you and a person. And at this stage, I could say 2 components that I've really lacked: listening as well as speaking. So I kept with the booklet and watched Attack on Titans until things got better. I still had subtitles on, and I firmly believe one cannot reach their potential without practicing. So I can say when it came to speaking, I didn't practice this as much.